These two firefighters seemed to have lost their minds. The distant mountain forest was clearly surrounded by a massive fire, yet they were still launching incendiary rounds to ignite the nearby trees. This ultimately caused the entire mountainside to be completely engulfed in flames and burn continuously for 3 days and 3 nights, yet they stood there applauding and cheering because all of this was within their expectations. It turned out that 3 days earlier, the firefighters had dug a firebreak line and subsequently ignited the surrounding trees, allowing the resulting controlled burn to move with the wind towards the wildfire. Eventually, the wildfire would slowly extinguish due to a lack of fuel. This method of fighting fire with fire was precisely the best way to extinguish a forest fire. However, on their way back to base, one team member's helmet strap inexplicably vanished. According to regulations, no strap meant no boarding the aircraft, yet turning back to search for it at this late stage, just before takeoff, was clearly impractical. At that moment, a teammate nearby handed him a roll of duct tape. Then, this comical scene made all the surrounding teammates burst out laughing. At that point, an older colleague opened his palm, revealing the mysteriously disappeared strap. Faced with his teammate's prank, the man helplessly gave him a big thumbs up. But amidst his helplessness, he secretly felt a flicker of joy, because this kind of joke meant he had finally gained this senior colleague's full acceptance. One must understand that months ago, when he came for his interview at the fire station, Christopher was the first person to oppose him joining the team.
What's up? You lost, or?
No, I was just checking. I heard you guys had some slots available.
Slots are all filled, man.
Actually, there was a vacancy in the team, and Christopher lied purely out of contempt for Brendan deep in his heart. Because at that time, Brendan was still an unmotivated slacker, not only indulging in addictions all day, but also neglecting his girlfriend Natalie completely. He even learned about Natalie's pregnancy from a friend. Yet, when he confronted Natalie to ask about the child's paternity, she stated bluntly that the child was indeed his, but she simply didn't want him to know because she knew someone like him, a loser, wouldn't take responsibility for anything.
My family and I have this on our own. I want you to stay away.
Having said that, Natalie turned and resolutely walked away, leaving Brendan alone in the night, utterly ashamed. Natalie's pregnancy hadn't awakened any decency in Brendan. When he passed an unlocked car, his deeply ingrained bad habits still pushed him to crawl inside and search thoroughly. Unexpectedly, the police by the roadside had already been waiting for him. Ultimately, Brendan was lawfully detained for theft and needed $1,000 bail to get out of jail. However, his mother on the other end of the phone was already utterly disappointed in Brendan, leaving only the sound of the call disconnecting as a silent response. Yet, soft-heartedness is a mother's universal flaw. She ultimately paid her son's bail. However, once home, Brendan didn't utter a single word of thanks, instead collapsing into sleep as usual. This zombie-like behavior made his mother completely lose hope. She threw him a plain white envelope. He opened it to find a few thin bills inside. It turned out his mother had resolved to sever ties with him. This meager sum of money was proof of her burying their familial bond. But even his mother's heartbreak wasn't enough to turn Brendan around, until 5 months later, when he laid eyes on his newborn child. The infant swaddled under the lights in the incubator moved him profoundly. A responsibility called fatherhood made this wayward son instantly turn over a new leaf. To earn enough to support his child's future, he rapidly studied all the theoretical knowledge about firefighting, then carefully applied for this seemingly hopeless job. Although team member Christopher detested Brendan, Captain Eric still gave Brendan a chance to change his situation, but the tricky questions during the interview still caught Brendan off guard.
When was the last time you used?
Eric's unexpected questions made Brendan's panic betray his guilt, but Eric gave him no time to think.
Yeah. Felony larceny.
Ever do any time?
3 days. And I'm on probation right now.
After hearing about Brendan's troubled past, Eric was both speechless and exasperated, wondering why such a person would apply to the fire station. Brendan answered sincerely, "I've made many mistakes before, done many shameful things. I'm embarrassed by the apathy of the first half of my life, but now I have a daughter, precious, like a pearl. I desperately want to give her a life I never had."
If you give me a chance, I won't let you down.
Perhaps moved by Brendan's deep resolve, Eric finally decided to give Brendan a chance to seize control of his life. He promised Brendan that if he could complete that day's team training run, he would be allowed to join. Since Brendan had no running shoes, Eric made Christopher contribute his new shoes to make up for Brendan's lack of gear, which only deepened Christopher's existing dislike. Yet no amount of resentment could stop the inevitable. At Eric's command, the team members started running with steady, orderly strides under the scorching sun, while Brendan could only watch their receding backs helplessly before vomiting his past laziness onto the dusty ground. This baffled Deputy Captain Jesse, running at the front. He couldn't understand why Eric would give such a hopeless person a chance, especially since the station was about to be evaluated for a top-level certification. Letting Brendan join would surely ruin everything. But Eric didn't explain much, just led the team further up the hill. When they reached the summit and started heading back, Brendan was still struggling uphill. His poor physical condition made most team members scornful, not even bothering to offer a word of encouragement. By sunset, all the other team members had finished training and gone home, yet Brendan was still nowhere near returning. Just as Eric was also about to give up on him, that persevering will finally arrived, dragging his nearly exhausted body. Brendan's first action upon reaching the end wasn't to collapse, but to present proof he'd made it to the summit, earning Eric's increased approval. Jesse also saw Brendan in a new light, handing him water and advising, "Go home, replenish your electrolytes, get a good night's sleep, you'll be fine." But Christopher remained fixated on his new shoes.
Hey, I got your kicks. You owe me $100.
After returning, Brendan immediately used his remaining savings to buy groceries at the supermarket, then delivered the carefully chosen supplies to Natalie's doorstep. This transformation from empty words to tangible action was perhaps the true mark of becoming a man. From then on, he delivered supplies to Natalie regularly every week, and Natalie would always watch discreetly from behind her window. Brendan's firefighting theoretical certification was earned in a short time, so his grasp of the complex firefighting regulations wasn't always clear, leading him to give wrong answers whenever Eric conducted a surprise quiz. This made the usually even-tempered Eric furious, because these regulations represented knowledge paid for with the lives of many firefighters, and he warned Brendan that if he got one more wrong, he would fire him. His mistakes caused the whole group to be punished together, so complaints rose one after another under the scorching sun. Christopher even started joking about his family, tauntingly saying, "I know you're here for your daughter, but is it possible you're actually working hard to raise someone else's daughter?" This premeditated provocation undoubtedly crossed Brendan's inviolable line.
McDonough! Do it! Throw that punch!
Do it.
Go home. Die.
Even though he was burning with rage, Brendan ultimately lowered the fist that could have ended his career. After all, he carried a responsibility called fatherhood on his shoulders. At that moment, teammates also felt Christopher's behavior was a bit too much. While his joke was a way to vent frustration, not involving family was a line everyone should respect. As a profession constantly operating on the fire line, survival drills were an essential part of every training session. Whenever this happened, Eric would shout emergency deployment, newbies in the middle, veterans on the outer ring, drop all tools, get into the fire break. Finally, he would say that when the flames close in, the sound will be like 100 freight trucks roaring overhead, and the ensuing heat wave can raise the surrounding temperature to 500 degrees Celsius. But as long as you bury your head in the dirt and keep breathing, you have a fighting chance. Although every drill emphasized these same old points, Eric's deepest wish was that they would never need to use this experience. Just then, Fire Chief Dwayne's call suddenly rang. A wildfire had ignited on nearby Chiricahua Mountain due to lightning, requiring their Type 2 fire crew to assist, and he repeatedly reminded Eric that this operation would be evaluated. A good performance could upgrade them to a Type 1 crew. This instantly stirred Eric's long, quiet heart, because establishing a Type 1 crew was his decades-long aspiration. One must understand that the salary for a Type 1 firefighter is double that of a Type 2, and more importantly, it grants absolute authority in handling fire situations. And this was precisely what Eric craved, because 4 years earlier during a fire, Eric had correctly predicted the wildfire's path based on temperature, humidity, and wind direction, advising the belated Type 1 crew to start a backfire on the mountain's east slope. But their arrogant captain not only ignored him but led the team in the opposite direction, ultimately resulting in the local residents' homes burning to ashes. Afterwards, they faced no consequences for their arrogance. Worse, 2 firefighters Eric had painstakingly trained even left for the rival team for better pay. To prevent a similar tragedy, Eric had to swallow his pride and seek help from his old friend Dwayne, then the city fire chief. But in this small city, achieving a Type 1 rating was no easy feat and unprecedented, as it was like establishing a provincial-level team within a city. Unless they traveled everywhere fighting fires to generate city revenue, the mayor wouldn't approve such a loss-making venture. So, Eric promised they would be on call throughout the fire season, taking no days off until the team earned the Type 1 rating. That night they met the mayor at a bar, and Eric assured him they would actively fight fires to generate city revenue. Dwayne predicted their mountainous city would eventually face a major forest fire, and when that happened, the residents would thank the far-sighted mayor for establishing a Type 1 crew. Ultimately, swayed by their reasoned and impassioned joint appeal, the mayor agreed to this unprecedented request. Then, leveraging his connections, Dwayne secured opportunities for them to fight fires statewide. Facing this hard-won evaluation opportunity, Christopher warned Brendan, the rookie, to follow orders and act cautiously. If a single slip-up by him wasted the entire team's effort, he would surely become the target of everyone's anger. But while establishing a firebreak to contain the wildfire in the field, the conflict from 4 years ago repeated itself. The cause was Eric, based on Wind Scout reports, determining the fire would rush towards them rapidly, so he ordered the team to immediately build a firebreak and start a backfire. But the nearby evaluator believed this would only fuel the wildfire. Their conflicting views sparked a fierce argument.
You don't understand is 40 years, son. I was on the job when you were still shitting yellow.
Due respect, you're just an observer. So let us do our job, okay?
No.
Step off! Now! Step off!
Ultimately, Eric remained convinced of his judgment and ordered the crew to build a firebreak and fight fire with fire right there. And it proved Eric's judgment was correct. The fierce fire gradually died out after burning all night. However, on the way back the next day, a team member nearly got crushed by a collapsing tree while trying to pick up an unusual stone from the ground. Fortunately, Brendan reacted in time to prevent the tragedy, and Christopher witnessed this act of saving a teammate, finally abandoning his prejudice against Brendan. Back at base, Eric was unusually agitated, even smashing the chair that had accompanied him for many years, because defying the evaluator on the fire line could very well turn the entire team's effort to ash. Just then, his friend Dwayne walked in.
What the hell happened out there?
I did what I thought was right. And the boys, man, were they a sight to see. I've never been so proud.
But Eric's worry was actually unnecessary because Dwayne was there to deliver the promotion news. Although the evaluator's report called Eric a stubborn jerk, the team's outstanding performance had earned his deep respect. Finally, they achieved their wish and were rated as a Type 1 fire crew, officially renamed the Granite Mountain Hotshots. After securing the Type 1 rating, Eric invited all team members' families to a gathering at the base. At this moment, loved ones gathered. Time flowed like poetry, laughter and joy, interweaving into a beautiful tapestry through conversation. Everyone's face beamed with genuine smiles, marks of true affection and family bonds. Sunshine accompanied by a breeze brought warm reunions. Under the eaves, some shook hands warmly, others performed tricks like opening bottle caps with a chainsaw. And his friend Dwayne presented Eric with a brand new chair, symbolizing their enduring friendship. Here, everyone had more or less close friends and partners, except Brendan and Christopher, who were alone and solitary without companionship. Brendan still hadn't gained Natalie's forgiveness and was shut out. Christopher's situation was even worse. Not only was he betrayed by his girlfriend, but he was also kicked out, now homeless. After hearing this, Brendan told him to move in and live with him. He just needed to kick out his current roommate to free up a room. At this moment, all grievances between them vanished, and they became true, genuine brothers. After the gathering, Brendan still delivered supplies to Natalie as usual, but unlike before, this time Natalie actually opened the door and called out to him. She thanked him for his silent dedication over the past months and expressed her joy at his turning over a new leaf and reforming himself. In that moment, she finally believed the man in front of her was worth trusting. She let him hold the child that was the product of their love. Looking at the exquisitely delicate daughter in his arms, he realized how broken and hopeless his girlfriend's life had been before, and how dark and shameful his own past decadence truly was. From now on, he would completely bid farewell to his past and rush towards a future spent with his family. 9 months later, with Natalie's permission, he finally got the chance to take his daughter home for an overnight stay. Although his good brother Christopher was a rough man, he was very thoughtful, wrapping all the chairs and tables in the house with bubble wrap. But late at night, the daughter became feverish all over, and even buying a thermometer and fever reducer medicine proved useless. Because neither of them had any experience with a sick child, they had no choice but to call a teammate's wife for help. Finally, under their careful care, the child's high fever subsided. Brendan went to the living room to thank the two teammates, but they said this was the camaraderie brothers should naturally share, a gift welcoming him into the ranks of fathers. Meanwhile, Eric was enjoying rare alone time with his wife Amanda. Under the glow of the campfire, they confided in each other. Amanda hoped for a child to fill the void left by Eric's constant overtime work, but Eric still insisted on the agreement they made when marrying, which was to wait until retirement before considering having children. Ultimately, the divergence in their views caused this rare warm moment to end unhappily. The next day, While Eric was leading the team to handle a sudden fire situation, Amanda was in a car accident on her way home. Seeing the badly damaged car, Eric felt both heartache and anger. He ached because his wife insisted on running her horse farm even after the accident, and he was angry because she didn't inform him immediately about such a serious situation. But Amanda told him not to be so insincere. If he truly valued her, he should step away from his busy work to spend more time with her, not just express lofty, vague concern verbally. However, Eric not only didn't listen, but turned around and went off to handle a new fire instead. This time, they again used fire to fight fire to contain the wildfire, but Brendan's igniter suddenly malfunctioned. In panic, he threw it as far as he could. This caused the fire to spread instantly, and during the retreat, he crashed into a tree trunk because his vision was obscured. Just as the flames dangerously close threatened to engulf him completely, the quick-eyed Eric pulled him out of danger. Facing the merciless fire that consumed all life and nearly took his own, even with his great courage, he couldn't help but feel lingering fear. Ultimately, with the combined efforts of the team, the fire was firmly contained on one mountain peak. Looking at the countless green forests he had saved, Eric reflected that firefighter truly was the best profession in the world. Clearly, he leaned more towards work over family. But in contrast, Brendan seemed to enjoy the sweetness of being with his family more. After the mission, he built shared family memories with his loved ones in scattered fragments of time. However, smoke then began billowing from Granite Mountain behind them, so he had to cut short this rare warmth to respond to the fire. This time, the squad's mission was to protect a 2,000-year-old alligator juniper tree. They sawed down the surrounding shrubs, then dug a life-saving firebreak. Following the wind direction, they ignited scattered trees nearby, then positioned themselves before the firebreak, using their own bodies as the ancient tree's final line of defense. Because they needed to constantly watch for falling embers. If any shrub behind the firebreak ignited, they had to extinguish it immediately. Finally, the two walls of fire collided violently and canceled each other out, creating a breathtaking scene of ash on one side and vibrant life on the other. After the success, they captured a wonderful moment in front of the ancient tree, a rare feeling of ease and joy after a great accomplishment. However, on the way back, Brendan was ambushed and bitten by a lurking rattlesnake. Even though burning pain swept through his body, he strongly insisted the nurse not use painkillers, as it might plunge him back into the nightmare of his troubled past. Ultimately, without medication, he slept for 3 days and 3 nights before gradually waking up. After waking, his mother handed him a newspaper. It featured their heroic act of protecting the alligator juniper and detailed the life-threatening dangers inherent in this job. Therefore, his mother hoped he could switch to a relatively safer job. After all, his daughter's future couldn't be without him. Brendan nodded thoughtfully after hearing this. That night, he found Eric to relay his mother's suggestion. He said he grew up without a father's presence, so he didn't want his daughter to endure that same helplessness. He wanted to transfer to the relatively safer and less demanding building inspection department after this fire season ended, and he pleaded with Eric to recommend him to Chief Dwayne. But Brendan's earnest words left Eric deeply disappointed. "I gave you an opportunity no one else in the world would have given you to get your life on track, and your way of thanking me is to leave me and my crew? Besides, do you think the building inspection department would hire someone with a record and a reputation like yours? Where will you go then? Humbly washing dishes. And by then, how long do you think you can last before falling back into forbidden substances?" Ultimately, this conversation ended unhappily, and Amanda at the bar happened to witness this entire unpleasant exchange. On the way home, she questioned Eric why he was so angry. Isn't it common for young crew members to want to leave for family reasons? Eric said Brendan was different. Just a year ago, he was struggling with personal demons, and now he's become a hero of the town. Amanda said, "If you fear he might relapse, why not take him to a support group? I think you're angry because Brendan put family above work."
His thing has nothing to do with me, okay?
I think it's got everything.
No, I don't want to do this.
Well, you know what? You've had 1 day off in the last month, which you spent sleeping, so when are we supposed to do it?
Eric pulled the car over to avoid affecting his driving. Inside, their intense argument continued.
I'm a different person. I have moved on from my addiction, and you are still feeding yours with another kind of drug.
It turned out Eric giving Brendan a chance to get back on track wasn't a whim. He saw his own troubled past reflected in Brendan. Although he had broken free from the grip of substances, he was now deeply trapped in the addictive thrill of firefighting. With nowhere else to go, he went to confide in Dwayne, saying, 20 years ago, I saw a grizzly bear completely engulfed in flames in a pine forest. It raced past me and vanished into the distance, glowing in the darkness until it disappeared. That was the most beautiful moment I've ever witnessed. Since then, I've deeply anticipated every firefighting moment. fantasizing about seeing that majestic sight again. This is the root of my addiction. But after hearing this, Dwayne didn't say much, only hoping Eric would seriously consider what was truly indispensable in life. Late at night, Eric cautiously opened his wife's door, and she had been waiting for his return all along. At this moment, he finally understood what was truly irreplaceable in his life. They shared a beautiful night inside the room, but this brief joy was quickly interrupted by a sudden fire call. Eric comforted his wife's disappointed heart, saying he might be home for dinner tonight. While rushing to the fire location, he told Jesse, "This is my last year as your captain. If you want it, this position is yours after that." But when they arrived at the temporary fire command post, they realized this fire was extraordinary. The wildfire ignited by lightning had rapidly spread towards residential areas overnight and was now critical. The fire department mobilized 5 Type 1 fire crews and established a safety zone at the mountain's base for retreat. The Granite Mountain crew's mission was to establish a fire break on the southwest flank of the massive blaze. Along the way, they chatted and laughed, appearing relaxed as if years of firefighting had prepared them to calmly face any fire. At Eric's command, they shifted from their casual demeanor back to intense, focused work. Seeing the clouds gathering densely over the nearby valley, Eric requested permission to ignite the fire break. After receiving approval, he first directed all crew members to their assigned burn points, then called Brendan aside separately.
I'm sorry about last night. About me. How was you?
Thanks, Sue.
Jesse then gave the order to ignite. Lighting this fire break would mean they could finish early, but just then a firefighting plane flying overhead doused their efforts. Seeing this, Eric angrily questioned air attack, but received only a brief reply of misjudgment. Helplessly, they had to move to the ridge to establish another fire break line. Given Brendan's leg injury wasn't fully healed, Jesse assigned him to monitor wind direction from a nearby hilltop. Coincidentally, the Blue River Crew's utility vehicle passed by, so Brendan hitched a ride and bid farewell to his teammates. As his vision grew increasingly blurred until covered by yellow dust, he finally reached the rocky hill not far away. Watching his teammates' arduous work below, he held the humidity and temperature gauges, not daring to be negligent for a moment. Soon, the distant horizon changed dramatically. Strong winds carrying thick smoke swept towards them, accompanied by rapidly spreading flames. In an instant, the fire reached Brendan's position. He wanted to evacuate quickly, but the fire spread faster, even blocking his planned escape route. Fortunately, at this life-or-death moment, the earlier utility vehicle broke through the fire line, bringing a glimmer of hope. The driver had heard Brendan's distress call on the radio and immediately turned back to transfer him to the safety zone. Meanwhile, the remaining crew had retreated to the burned-over area, finding a moment of peace on the scorched earth before the advancing flames. A gentle breeze accompanied by warm sunlight brought a rare feeling of ease. Then Eric received orders from the command center. The dense smoke had forced firefighting planes to delay, allowing the fire to spread directly into residential areas. Other fire crews had already withdrawn. Now they were the only team left to defend the homes. Coincidentally, the crew was feeling restless with nothing to do, so they unanimously agreed to cross the fire break and fight the fire at the large ranch. However, an unexpected event suddenly occurred. A tornado formed in the north, carrying flames burning towards the southwest. By the time Eric reached the mountainside, the fire was already at the edge of the fire break. Attempting to run forward to the fire break for refuge was now impractical, and retreating back to the burned-over area was also too late. So Jesse ordered an emergency deployment. Eric called for air support to cool the area. The crew, like in countless past drills, expertly dropped their tools and ignited the surrounding shrubs to burn a safety zone. But the desperately awaited firefighting plane, hampered by obstructed visibility, missed the water drop opportunity.
Granite Mountain, how do you read me?
Witnessing the hope of survival pass right overhead, even veteran Eric with 20 years of firefighting experience could no longer remain calm and composed. Brendan, observing everything from the safety zone, choked back sobs, seemingly foreseeing the tragic fate of his teammates. Seeing the raging flames rushing towards them at high speed, Eric gave the final order, commanding everyone to discard their gear and get into their fire shelters. Newbies in the middle, veterans on the outer ring. Bury your heads in the dirt and try your best to keep breathing. When the instant between life and death tears the world into fragments, even the most indomitable soul will feel fear. Once the fire situation eased, the command center immediately launched a search and rescue operation. A rescuer in the helicopter soon spotted bodies wrapped in fire shelters, but when he approached, he was utterly stunned. 19 crew members lay motionless like cocoons. Their lives had turned to ash along with the mountain forest, and the life-saving fire shelters had ultimately become their burial shrouds. After receiving news of their deaths, Brendan's grief and fury could no longer be contained, yet his desperate roar felt so powerless. Family members had gathered at the gymnasium upon receiving the news. Intelligence indicated only one survivor out of the 20, but the mayor couldn't reveal this before the grief counselors arrived. Yet, some family members were already becoming emotionally overwhelmed. The death of one person is just one more grave for the land, but for those who depended on them, it is the entire world buried under the grave. Meanwhile, Brendan was on his way to the gymnasium. Accompanying staff advised him not to face the families of the deceased, but he resolutely walked through the door. However, seeing the despair on one face after another, his heart was instantly filled with sorrow again. Perhaps the price of surviving a disaster is enduring a lifetime of prolonged pain.
Should have been me.
At that moment, Amanda comforted him, saying, "I'm glad you're alive, and I believe your captain felt the same. You must live on, Brendan. Don't give up on yourself. That's the only way not to let Eric down. Understand? Time flies like an arrow, swift as fleeting smoke." 3 years later, on a spring morning, the season began with harmony among all living things. The mountains and fields scorched by fire had grown new life, and the morning light shone upon this land of hope. Yet how much spring breeze can scatter the pain of parting, and how can warm sunlight resurrect life from its ashes? Strings of wind chimes swayed in the breeze on the alligator juniper they once protected. This was a trace of their presence, proof they were not forgotten. Under the tree, Brendan blew the dust off Eric's photo. Now he hadn't relapsed into old ways nor given up, but was carrying Eric's goodwill to live earnestly, passing on his brother's unwavering spirit. This is a true story. The film is based on the heroic deeds of the Granite Mountain Hotshots crew. The youngest among them was only 21 years old. Before the interview, he had lied to his mother, saying the job wasn't dangerous at all. The oldest, the captain, was only 43. Before heading out on the call, he had told his wife he would be home for dinner that night. The rest were all around 30 years old. They had different backgrounds and families, yet they shouldered the same mission and responsibility. There are no heroes who descend from the heavens. There are only ordinary people who step forward. And these seemingly ordinary people all share one name, the ones who run towards the danger. Perhaps it is precisely because of these individuals who run towards the danger that our lives begin to have unique colors. Their heroic deeds deserve to be remembered. Their stories will also shimmer with dazzling light in the gentle breeze. Perhaps this is the meaning behind their choice to rush in without regard for their own safety. Additionally, Brendan's growth forms a main thread of the story. He transformed from an initial slacker to a firefighter today, from days filled with apathy to a life no longer lost. This magnificent transformation stems from the power of responsibility and the help of crucial mentors. In truth, what Eric gave him was not just a job opportunity, but an entirely new life. It's just that life is full of uncertainties. Often, before we even get the chance to say thank you, we've already gone our separate ways. But at least he will never forget that there was once a person who extended a strong arm towards him in the mire. Perhaps in some parallel universe they can meet again, facing new fires together.